today. Welcome along to the show. This is Time to Get Up. This is your place for the sane. On a Thursday morning, we have got Resisting the Lies coming in very, very shortly. Looking forward to that one. We are going to play his second choice of the day. And this one is a track by Home. I think it's a relatively recent one, this one, and it's called On the Way Out. Enjoy this one. You are ready for the main event of the day. We've got the Friday quiz coming up tomorrow. Yeah, it's going to be another one of those one of those Friday quizzes for you culture vultures out there. We'll see how that one goes. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But first, we have got this. It's the Thursday interview, and joining me this week, it is content creator, it is streamer, and Scottish current affairs analyst. It's Resisting the Lies. How are you doing, mate?
Good morning. How's it going?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, nice and warm here. How is it? Are you in Scotland, or are you part of the diaspora?
Nah, I'm up in the Highlands, Inverness.
Right,
so
right. Excellent.
I'd probably say I'd rather be in Inverness anywhere above all else in terms of weather's all right here, demography's all right here. It's relatively quiet in comparison to other parts of Scotland. It's a bit of a shit show, like, you know. But
yes, yeah, I've heard about the two major cities slowly tumbling down that road. It seems, but you seem to be away from it where you are at the moment.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, I mean, it's even like because I've listened. I think it was you were doing the stream. It might have been with Meme Pain. You were talking to somebody about when you were younger, and you didn't really see race or anything like that. You know, like you never had to think about it because everything was relatively as it should be. And it's the same here in Inverness. Still, by and large, a very Scottish area. So growing up, I never had to think of these issues, and it wasn't until I reached my late teens, early 20s when I realised that there was a major issue across the UK, which is a totally sheltered life up here. I wouldn't go as far as to say privilege, like, because I can't stand the word, but in comparison to other parts of the UK, I'd definitely say I'd rather be here, like. You know.
Yeah, so you were one of the lucky ones to actually have a childhood as it should be, just growing up, not having to worry about any of the crap that they're pushing these days, right?
Yeah, I mean, I checked I think it was last year. I checked the census for Inverness. I was just curious. And it was actually whiter in Inverness than it was in the entirety of Scotland for 2011, because 2011 census was 96%. But in Inverness, it was like 97.8. It's very, very Scottish. Like, so, right. Yeah, I get just miles apart from the rest of Scotland. I mean, I've been to Glasgow a few times in the past few years, in Edinburgh, and I felt out of place at times, just in general, like outnumbered in supermarkets and that. It's very surreal. But I understand that the problem's kind of spreading northwards, like. But yeah, as a kid as well, it was the same. All my school photos and that of the class, all just little white kids, like, you know what I mean? So.
Right. Well, I'll wait for that Guardian article that to come out. The Guardian article that says how painfully white Inverness is. We're going to get one of those.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's because it's classes in the countryside as well for Highlands. So I mean, they're always complaining about the UK's countryside being too white. So I suppose that encompasses Inverness as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen things about that. Yeah, people have been talking about that. There's been that thing on the BBC about some scheme about trying to train up BAME farmers and things like this. When really a lot of people are just saying that they themselves are just simply not interested. I think if they were interested in that, Africa would have farming by now, but it still hasn't, has it?
Yeah, what was that? And then they've got the scheme as well they're on about trying to get people to move to the islands in Scotland. I can't recall which island it is, but they were talking about a scheme where they were going to pay families to move to the islands, but I can see a mile off that's just another route to get people, you know, from the BAME origin into the islands, you know.
And it seems the only conclusion people seem to have now, it's just that it's pure evil. And that's it. That's the only conclusion people can come to these days, because there's no other word for it. And also when you talk about, obviously when we talk about what we've been seeing recently with people coming in, with the dinghies, not only the dinghies, but just the influx, the constant influx of migrants coming in. And then at the same time, we've got the World Economic Forum telling us that AI is going to do all the work for us and everything else. So why the hell do we even need it? The argument's gone. It's just completely gone, but it's carrying on anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the old argument used to be it was for an aging population.
Yes.
But as you say, now they're talking about AI and whatnot that'll be able to do some of the jobs. So fundamentally, that argument doesn't really wash me anymore. I think it's pretty self-evident at this point that there's ulterior motives, especially when you look at all the different pacts that have been signed throughout the years. So, your Marrakesh, your Migrant Compact in 2018, etc., etc. These pacts being signed were unbeknownst to the public, day in and of themselves when you read through them. Very sinister, very sinister. And there's definitely more to it. Well, we know there's more to it, but trying to explain that to normies can be a bit fucking I'm sorry for swearing like that.
No, don't worry.
It can be quite difficult at times. Tried it a few times on the building sites, and by and large, it just goes in one ear or the other.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? What sets us apart from them? Then why are we noticing it? Why are we the only ones talking about it? What does it take for somebody to get to this situation where you've figured out what's going on, you've realised it all, you've seen the mask get taken off? Why is it just a small band like us who are noticing these sort of things when the rest of them are just going on their merry way? They get any kind of information about this that they do get is met with blank expressions on their faces. Do you get when you tell people about these sort of things? Do you get these sort of gormless expressions when you tell them to sort of like kind of thing?
And then there was they get to a certain point sometimes where they'll listen to some of it, but then you'll get so far and then they'll just switch off. Mm-hmm. I think the furthest I ever got somebody conversation-wise was back in 2018. That was ages ago, but that's the furthest I've got conversation-wise with somebody trying to explain to him what was going on with the migrant compact, because that was being signed that week, and he was listening to what I was saying. I showed him the stuff that was being released, the videos and that were coming out at the time. And I started going into the motives behind why this was being signed and what it would mean for the future and whatnot. And then he just switched off, didn't want to know anymore. So it's like some people they can see the issues. Some people can see the issues, or they might agree. Whether they're humouring you or not is a different matter entirely. But they just get to a certain point and they just switch off. And I don't know why. I really don't know why. I think by and large everybody's different, and I would like to think that they'll all come to, the realization themselves at some point. But I mean, what the hell else is it going to take at this point? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's the question that most of us have been asking quite a while now. What is it going to take? Some people are saying they are seeing a trickle. Okay, they are seeing a few eyes being opened these days, but it seems that it's not enough, and it looks like, unfortunately, it's going to take something really, really horrible. And I don't want to sort of doom monger or anything like that, but it seems it's just going to be the only way. And even then, it's people are just going to say, "Oh dear." I think Adam Curtis talked about "oh dearism." Okay, where all people respond to something like that, they just go "oh dear" for about 5 minutes, and then carry on with the rest of their lives, carry on their merry way, and wonder what's on football. Wonder what's for dinner and who's playing the football later on.
Yeah. I mean, I see it's started happening in England as well now, but we had the one from last year, that Kenmure Street, when they prevented the Home Office from getting rid of those 2 Indian guys. And then the same thing in the run up to the anniversary of Kenmure Street just a few weeks ago, but it took place in Edinburgh. The same event basically repeated itself. And I think the narrative by and large plays a major role in it, even though people to a certain extent don't really watch the news the same way as generations gone by. But there's still, with social media and whatnot, it does skew the narrative, because all across Scotland the idea was that the Home Office is just deporting people randomly for being brown, and so we in Scotland, we oppose the Tories' racist deportation system, etc. So that's the narrative that's been going around, from what I picked up anyway, if social media and whatnot's anything to go by. And by and large, that's shaped by the media, because the Tories or the Home Office anyway, they're not just picking random people because they're brown and going, right, it's time for you to go. That's not what's happening. And while they were all arguing the toss over 2 individuals and trying to prevent them from being deported, nobody ever seems to address the legal immigration that's happening. They talk about a hostile environment, but the legal immigration that's coming in right under their nose, it can't be that much of a hostile environment of around about 1 million people came in last year, 700,000 the year prior, almost, give or take.
Right.
But all they hear is 2 poor little brown people might be getting deported because of racism. That's all they hear. And they just switch off to what's happening simultaneously. So yeah. I do think the media there's a large element of that. And they seem to be in lockstep with all the lefty type progressive politicians as well. They'll sing from the same hymn sheet, like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I do catch your show when I can on a Sunday evening with the other Scottish lads, with Scott Salmer as well. And you also have a YouTube channel still, right? And you I've seen you post. You still post little videos up there as well, right?
I really don't know how I've still got a YouTube channel, to be honest with you. Like, I really don't. I've had so many strikes in the past.
Oh right.
I've deleted a rake of my videos. I've got about 500 up now on my YouTube channel, but I had about 800.
Right.
All my old stuff I deleted because I kept getting strikes. That's where my name comes from. Like, I used to be kind of into conspiracies and stuff. Like, I really wish I could change it now. You know?
No. I think it still works. I think it still works in this day and age, because think about it. Think about everything that's going on these days. We're still just being fed lie after lie. Obviously the famous ones, like, diversity is our strength, and things like this, and so many other things, and obviously the Tories saying, oh, we're going to crack down on immigration, we're going to get tough on. No, that's a lie as well. So I think I think resisting the lies still works. It still really works, I think. So yeah.
I mean, I do think that you can make that argument, but it's just, I always think to myself that people are looking at that and they're going, this guy genuinely thinks that he's cool with his name, like, as I'm resisting the SNP's lies or something. And I don't know, it makes me cringe because my name's got nothing to do with what I talk about now. It's like, as I say, it was quite into like conspiracies, ISIS and stuff like that back in the day, like back in 2016 time. So that's where the name comes from. But yeah, I do take the point, but it's still, you can still use the name of the day, but as I say, I've had a few people mocking it in the past, and I can see why. See both sides of the argument, like. But
no, I disagree. I still think it works. I don't think it's cringe at all. I know. I kind of understand what you mean, because someone mentioned in the chat the other day that any website that has got truth written in it, you have to kind of take a bit of a step back. You have to handle with care. When if it's like something like, I don't know, Truth Fighters or something like that. Is that I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean about that. But I don't know. I think it's fine, because we are just being fed lie after lie, and it seems maybe more than ever, I would say.
Yeah, and I would say as well that it's quite fitting given what I cover now, because the Scottish government do nothing but lie. No, they're not the only ones, obviously, but that's by and large what I tend to cover is the Scottish government and their malevolence, and every day it's just another barrage of lies from them. But yeah, like, as I say, I was into conspiracies 2016, 2017 time, but I kind of shifted more towards like nationalist talking points, just naturally, really.
Yeah.
So I kind of skipped the whole SIPNAT thing.
I did too. Yeah, I did as well. Yeah.
What was I going to say? I think I did hear you saying that on the stream as well, actually. But I remember making videos where I was genuinely naive to what was going on, like where I was reacting to articles that were just, remember back in like just around about the Trump era, 2016, 2017 time, there's all these articles coming out. They were just like blatantly anti-white, like as anti-white as you can get. I can't think of anything specific, but the titles alone were just enough grounds to call anti-white. But the whole article just cancer. And I would sit there and react to these articles back then, totally naive, and I couldn't understand where this vitriol was coming from.
Yeah, not noticing the surname of the person that wrote it.
No, Cohen. I always remember that.
Yeah,
Cohen was the first one. Somebody pointed it out in the chat. Cohen. And I started doing a bit of digging, and then, and obviously when you're into conspiracies and whatnot, you inevitably end up on certain topics, shall we say? So, it was a natural progression.
But you know what people say about conspiracy theories, though, and also I think we do have to. We do have to. A lot of people talk about this, understanding the difference between a conspiracy and a conspiracy theory, because a conspiracy is a fact. It's a real thing. It's something that is planned. It's something that is calculated. It's something that's real. It's something that's happened. Whereas a conspiracy theory is somebody's idea, somebody's imagination of a conspiracy. But even conspiracy theories, what a lot of people have been saying recently over the last sort of 5 years or so. So many of them actually do end up becoming facts. I mean, 5 years ago, if you had somebody talking about chemtrails, and that really was one of the sort of the whole conspiracy theory thing, because there is some truth in some of them, and you really have to try to find. You have to separate the truth from the wacky stuff. Even things like chemtrails, because on one side you've got people saying, okay, chemtrails are happening because people are releasing chemtrails. Chemtrails are being released because they're trying to manipulate the weather, and with the whole climate change thing. And we've heard a lot about that, and that seems quite plausible. But then on the other side, you've got people saying, oh no, chemtrails are being released because inside the chemtrails there are nanobots that are going to manipulate our brain and or things, or turn us into transhumans. So you see what I mean? So even inside one conspiracy theory, you've got one theory that's actually quite plausible and another one which is less so. Same with 5G as well, I suppose. And I think 5G probably isn't very, very good for our health. But whether it's something that's going to control what you do, it's going to be like people saying that 5G is related to mind control. Then, you see what I mean? It depends how far you go with it.
Yeah, and even with 5G, I remember watching some. I'm still not sure how I feel about that, because I remember a few years back there was quite a lot of I wouldn't necessarily say fear mongering, because I don't know what's true and what's not, and I wouldn't be fair to call it fear mongering if it's genuinely true. But you'll hear compelling arguments, but then all it'll take is 5 minutes of looking about, and you'll find a rebuttal. So I don't know what's true and what's not, and I think for some people, when it comes to the realms of like conspiracy theories and that, if people aren't an expert in a field, or if they don't really know like a lot of what they're talking about, if they're not fluent in what they're talking about, then they should really make that acknowledgement that they're discussing a conspiracy, but they don't know for certain. But so many people, it's more prevalent on BitChute. They'll peddle conspiracy theory talking points, but they'll talk about it as if it's like concrete fact. And I think that does a disservice to genuine issues or potential issues, like you say, the chemtrail issue. Like, there's definitely something going on up there when you look about, but some of the stuff that you hear coming out about it on BitChute especially, it leaves a lot to be desired, and I think that does a lot to discredit the whole conversation about chemtrails. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I've heard BitChute's ended up like that. I haven't been on BitChute for ages actually. I've heard that it's there's a lot of still a lot of Q-tards on there. Is that right? A lot of
yeah. I don't go on it that often myself, to be honest. I got not BitChute. I mean, I've genuinely must be the only people that's got a UK-wide ban on BitChute. So I barely go on it after that. I just thought you proclaimed to be all about free speech, and yet you just booted me off your platform. But yeah, every time I have gone on it, it's just, as I've seen Mark Collette talking about that as well, it's full of people making up some wacky theories about the jib jabs and whatnot. So it's just a bit of a strange platform at this point. Like,
yeah, but I mean, I think most of us are extremely suspicious of the jab. I mean, we've seen, but obviously, it just depends how far you go, and you just have to be really, really careful with it. A lot of it, I think, is actually easier to detect these days, because a lot of it really is mask off stuff these days, with people like Schwab and people like Yuval Harari saying what they want to do in the future, and it's there in front of us. It's there in plain sight. So there are things like that we know that maybe 5 or 10 years ago, if someone had said that, they would have said they were nuts. Even people like David Icke, dare I say it, I mean, I'm not that much of a fan of David Icke, but some of the stuff that he said, like literally 20, 30 years ago, does actually seem to be happening. Maybe some people say, well, it's always going to be like that. You know, if a blindfolded person throws 100 darts at a dartboard, then, you know, maybe they are going to hit treble 20 once. You know, and so that's what some people say about David Icke, that you can say a load of stuff, a load of theories, and then one of those theories is going to be right just because of the laws of probability. When I think we also have to point out that quite a lot of David Icke's predictions haven't come true yet. So this is what we have to do here. Yeah, we just have to be smart about it. We just have to be cautious about it. We just have to weigh things up. Don't get reeled in. It can be exciting when you hear about a new thing. Oh God, wow, look at that. But when you do see something about that, instead of getting reeled in, it's always good to take a little step back and use your brain and try and work it out for yourself, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and David Icke talked about Agenda 21. That's probably like the biggest conspiracy. I think he's relatively on point with the climate change stuff as well, if I'm honest. But again, it kind of goes back to that point I was saying, like, where it can lead to it doing a disservice because he's on record talking about, like lizard people and that at the same time as he makes compelling arguments about climate change and Agenda 21. But then all it'll take is for somebody to say, yeah, but he also believes in lizard people, and then kind of, it's, I don't know, like it's just stuff like that that can make it a bit difficult to kind of get people on board when there's people out there that come away with some wacky stuff. And if they would just that's what if they came from it at the angle, like, I don't know for certain, but this is what I believe, that's fine. But when they say it as if it's a fact, they just look like whack jobs sometimes. And that's something I've found to be a bit of an issue throughout the years. But with the Agenda 21 stuff, that was getting brandished as a conspiracy theory, but that's definitely coming into fruition now. And that's something that I talk about quite a lot on my channel. Well, Agenda 2030 and stuff. I mean, it was getting. I remember when I started talking about it on my YouTube channel and stuff, and people were calling me a conspiracy theorist and stuff and all this. But it's so blatant at this point now. I mean, you've even seen in recent, I think it was last month, that the WEF and the United Nations they've signed some pact to accelerate the Sustainable Development Goals to make sure that the 2030 targets are reached. And they keep making reference to, it's not just build back better, it's sustainable this, sustainable that, sustainable this. And without a doubt, that is not a conspiracy. That is happening right now. Yeah. That's what I firmly believe myself at this point, that a lot of what we're seeing today is not just WEF related, it's also Agenda 2030. And David Icke was one of the first people, to my knowledge, that was really trying to bring attention to that years ago. He's done quite a lot of talks on Agenda 21, but by and large, it was brandished as a conspiracy for the longest time. And I think it's kind of undeniable at this point that it's not.
Yeah, and while they're saying all of that, they're flying into Davos in their private jets. Yeah. Just a complete joke. It's a complete and utter joke. I mean, if people just can't see that, you're just brain dead. If you can't see the double standards, the hypocrisy, etc., you just don't give a shit, or you're just brain dead, I think.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And I mean, if there genuinely was a climate crisis, as they love to brandish it as, when it comes, with their COP meetings and that, why do we have to wait once a year for them to all fly in their CO2 emitting private planes to have some little discussion, some little circle jerk for a couple of days at an event? Why can't they sort the issue out now? Why can't they use Zoom? If there's a climate crisis, shouldn't they not be all trying to, correlate deals and whatnot now, instead of, I could wait till COP? Once a year and every year it's the same routine. It's always, this is the last chance. We won't get a second chance, and then the same thing repeats itself next year. We've seen the same thing for years. So I can't. That's another thing I don't particularly buy into, is the climate quote crisis narrative. But there is an argument to be made that if there is any strange alterations to the climate as we're seeing it. It could be potentially a link to chemtrails. I don't know. I genuinely don't think there's anything really going on that's untoward. But in terms of the climate, I think everything's as it should be, to be honest. But
right, and you see how how protected they were at Davos. You had all the military there. It was all like a completely sort of militarized zone around there. Not very inclusive, is it? People talk about inclusion, don't they?
Yeah, there was even I think the Bilderberg group had a meeting not that long ago.
They do.
And
yeah,
it didn't even get any airtime or anything. Like nobody,
No.
The only person that was there was that guy on YouTube, that We Are Change guy.
Oh yeah, I know.
He was standing outside with some other dudes, and they were just live streaming. Like nobody knew about it. So,
Right.
but and then the COP as well. They had when they all flew in on their planes and whatnot, they were given cards so they could use the transport for free and all that. Whereas Glaswegians that live in the city, they weren't even given that.
Right.
We're starting.
We do the bulk of the interview. Depends if the guest has to go, then I'll the guest goes, and then I'll look at the chat after. But you can hang around. We can have a look at the chat today. Later on, we can interact with the chat a little bit later on. Right, okay. So, right, you've already seen that Lumi isn't particularly.
He's away for a cigarette. Let me know when it's finished.
Okay, fine, right. Okay, fair enough. All right then. Okay, so you are probably most well known these days for your contributions to the lads chat on a Sunday. How did that come about?
Well, I mean, I kind of put my foot down, didn't really want to do any more streams, because the first ever time I appeared in a stream was with Cyborg and that back in 2020, and I was a nervous wreck, really nervous wreck. So I refused to do any more streams. But Scott's Armour kind of came up with the idea that he wanted to do something, so me and No Chance eventually said, look, we'll come on with you, get you started, whatnot, that type of thing. And it wasn't meant to be that me and No Chance were like the two panelists, so to speak, but that's how it ended up being for quite a while. It was us three, but life gets in the way. No Chance kind of flits in and out, but I've just kind of become like a permanent second panelist, if you will. I mean, I don't really like using words like that when it's just a YouTube thing, but you know what I mean? It's
might as well, yeah.
But it's been good. It was because I think by and large there was a kind of bit of a vacuum when it came to just like a Scottish focused, stream or conversation and whatnot. I mean, PA Talk, they'd have a myriad of different guests on from all over the joint across the UK. So I know like Cyborg's from Scotland and whatnot, or he lives in Scotland anyway. So there was an element of Scottish conversation from time to time, but I think by and large that was missing. There wasn't anything that was really Scottish specific, So I think that's where the idea it kind of gained momentum, and it's just stuck now. He's been doing it for over a year now.
I was thinking that actually. Yeah, it's been a while. It's Scott's Armour's channel, isn't it? That's where it takes place. Yeah. Have you met the guy in real life or?
I bet Scott's Armour once.
Yeah? Awesome. Yeah. Nice one.
But we were supposed to be. I brought up the idea last year for me, him, and No Chance to get together and that. But again, life gets in the way, type of thing, and it's just not materialised yet. But I met Scott's Armour. That was quite a good crack. So it's kind of good to put a face to the voice sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'd love to be able to meet all the people that I've spoken to online. In real life, I'd love to be able to do that. My situation, as you said, life gets in the way. My situation isn't really allowing for that at the moment. Going through some changes at the moment. I'm moving house soon. I'm moving country soon. Actually, because I don't know if you're aware, I'm in Italy. I don't know if you knew that. You know that?
Yeah.
And
what country are you moving to?
I don't want to say. I will do in due course. Yeah. Some people already know, but I haven't really been public about it. But once I'm there, once I'm settled and everything, I think I'm going to. I'll maybe not tell people exactly where I am, but the country at least. And again, I'm not going to be able to get back to the UK, not permanently anyway. So yeah, UK. Unfortunately, yeah, it's not the UK where I'm moving back to.
Are you looking forward to it though?
Well, yeah, I am. I'm hoping that it's going to offer me a bit more stability, a bit more stability with the job. It's a permanent job, work contract. I'm probably this is sort of September onwards. I'm probably not going to have as much as an opportunity to do this sort of thing. I'd like to focus on just work things, work issues, work responsibilities. Just build something up, get a bit more, have a bit more responsibility. Obviously, I don't think I'm going to close the channel or anything, but I think I'm going to have a bit of a break this summer. Yeah, this is show number 84. Most people in the chat already know that when I get up to 100, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop this show. Once I get up to 100, that'll be a good innings, I think, a century, and then. Have a bit of a break, maybe just completely go offline. Bonnie Lab was talking about this the other day as well. He was saying that we do need a bit of a break from it. I think, because we end up going mad. Otherwise, there was academic agent moaning about Telegram, but the thing is, don't moan about Telegram when it's you that's using it. You know what I mean? It's like. It's like anything. It's getting really, really fat off fast food and then blaming the food.
Yeah. Telegram is a cesspool for doing posting. Like I update my channel on Telegram, but by and large, I don't really look at any other channels at all anymore. Like I used to back in the day when I first joined it, but I don't know. Every day you go on there's something else. It's the same as before you pull me into the stream. Like we're just having a wee glance at Twitter. It's the same thing on Twitter. By and large, I think it's just best for your sanity to, avoid that stuff as much as possible. Twitter and Telegram, not the best place to go.
I think you can use it within reason. You can go on there. You can have a peek at a bit of news. You can get your news from there. I actually think the news on Telegram is probably more reliable than what you're going to get on the MSM anyway. You can pop in there, have a look at a bit of news. I only really go on channels these days. I don't really go into chats because you know what chats are like. They always just descend into the usual name calling and bickering and all of that stuff. And I think this is definitely a problem that we have in our circles. We've got to stop bickering. We really, really do. We've got to stop. We can have a moan. Of course, we can have a moan about things. It's part of our nature. But have a moan of we can have a moan about what like the sort of things that we've been doing this morning. But when it becomes personal and you're moaning about another person or you're pissed off with another person, you're complaining about what they're doing and things like that, it just doesn't do anybody any good, I think. I noticed on your lads chat on Sundays you don't do that. Actually, I've noticed that you don't bitch about anybody else in our circles. So that's that's something that I appreciate because you know what I mean. You're obviously you're moaning about the situation, and everything like that, but you're not attacking anybody personally.
No, I've tried to stay out of most of that. I mean, like 2020 was when I first joined Telegram. There was no chance, and there's a girl called Taphole. I don't know if you've heard of her, but they found my YouTube channel and they wanted me to come to Telegram and that. And then it was only within like a matter of days I was seeing all the different variations of cliques and bickering. Like, I don't want anything to do with that. Like, what I mean? But I think if these people met in real life, they wouldn't act like that. I think there's an element of the fact that it's online, most people are anonymous and whatnot, that it does descend into madness sometimes, and you do see the most pointless of arguments kicking off. I'm the same as you. I don't bother going into the chats really either anymore. My Telegram channel's my account is near enough dormant at this point. If it wasn't for me updating my actual channel, then it would be near enough dormant, because the chats back in the day, I remember them as if it was yesterday. As you say, it's just too much bickering for no reason half the time, and the most like nonsensical reasons to have it out with each other. And I don't know, I just can't be bothered with it. I've never really been arsed with it. Like, It's, I think, as you say, we need to stop that. But I don't know if it's still a prevalent issue. Because as I said, I don't really go into the charts, but like all these different channels, for example, that are targeted at specific people, you know what I mean? I won't like mention names and stuff, but I don't know who's behind the channel.
Or like anything with exposed on the end of it.
Yeah, or like so and so is and then I'll have some expletive, and then it's just post after post after post. I'm like, what the? You're adults. Why aren't you like that?
Exactly, yeah. But just ignore, disengage. That's it. And you're doing the right thing. It seems you're better off for it. There's probably plenty of stuff that you don't know, and you're better off for it. And I think we can all we can all take that as good advice, I think. And I think we will all be better off for it. Take the bits that help, take the bits that are useful, and ignore the bits that aren't. I had I don't know if you saw it 2 or 3 weeks ago. I had Kate Fanning on.
Oh yeah,
on the show. I think it was 3 weeks ago. I think it was, and absolutely awesome guest. Really, really good interview. Really, really fired up person, and someone who really, really gives me hope. She was talking about saying that everybody needs to get united. I think the slogan she used was white unity at every opportunity, which I think has. I generally agree with those sentiments. I didn't want to push back too much during the interview, but I think it's probably the only thing that she said that day that I may push back on is that she said, "Oh, all these organisations, these nationalist organisations on the right, we all need to get together, and we all need to follow a common cause." And I'm thinking, that's nice. That's nice in theory, but the problem is, I think we can't ignore, and I'm not going to mention any names today, but we can't ignore that I think there are 2 or 3 of these organisations that have questionable motives. I really do think that, and it's a tough one. And I know we should be following the cause, and and for me it's always the 90% thing. We all agree on 90%, and we're all bickering. Well, not we are all, but the bickering goes on because of the 10% that people don't disagree on. People that disagree on. But I just feel that without getting too deeply into it, I just think there are a couple of organisations, nationalist organisations on the right, that do have questionable motives, that aren't really in it for the cause. But that's kind of all I'm going to say about it. But what I will say that really impressed me about Kate was saying, she came up with a lot of solutions that day, and she's working on them right now. I really like the idea of this, being a pain in the arse and just being really relentless. I think actually No Chance might have mentioned it with you guys, or I don't know. He was on a stream and he said that obviously he's a busy man, and he's a family man, and he's got lots of responsibilities. But he did say that he liked the idea of just being a pain in the arse and going around with a camera and following people. And just like politicians are walking out of their so MPs walking out of their offices and things like that, and you're just following them with a camera, asking them really awkward questions.
Yeah, we've had these discussions, from time to time, because I think it was about maybe 2 months ago. After the stream finished, we spoke for about an hour and a half or something about definitely at some point getting together to start doing stuff IRL. But one of, I don't really want to speak for him, but what he was saying was that one of his ideal ambitions in the future would be to, if it could, gain enough finance and whatnot to sustain it, would be to kind of pretend to be, for example, pro-independence, and then you can go up to these types of independence politicians, but then when you get into their sphere, hit them with a doozy, like a proper question that'll throw a spanner in the works type of thing, but have it all recorded so he could post it. He wants to get invested in IRL stuff, and it's a good idea, but again, it's a matter of when it comes to No Chance, very, very busy man, and obviously he was on about the finance and stuff, but I think that's what you were kind of referring to there in regards to being a bit of a pest, so to speak. That's
because maybe you don't make songs. They don't like songs. They're scared of songs. Well, think about what happened to Mr. Bond and Alison Chablot. They don't like songs.
No, that's true. But I mean, people have been booted off YouTube for far less. Like,
Right.
as I'm saying, I don't. It's something that irritates me because obviously I'm not, as you hear quite often. Anybody that's still on YouTube at this point is either controlled opposition or works for the state. Like, excuse me. Like,
Resisting the lies. You're a fed. You're a fed.
They imply that I'm FBI or something. Like, but nah, I think I was on the verge of getting the can. Like, it was because I used to be more profanity, and I would rant a lot. Like, I would lose my temper and swear, and like a lot of expletives. So I was a bit more crass. So I've just kind of reined it in a bit, and I've been all right. I've kind of flown under the radar. But like,
I noticed that you're quite mellow this morning, yeah, because you're usually the angry one on Sundays, aren't you?
Yeah. I disappeared off YouTube and all that. I took a break at the end of last year for 2 months, and when I came back, I kind of just changed my approach completely. So it's more Scott's Armour you'll hear ranting now on the streams.
Oh, really? Okay, right. No, I do remember it was it was yourself that was ranting more.
Yeah, right. You do occasionally get the odd rant from me in my videos, but they're that's only if something really irritates me. Because I've got a tendency, I've always done this. Like if I'm reading something, I'll read half, or the first little part of whatever I'm going to cover, because I know by and large what it's going to contain anyway. And then so like most of my reactions are sort of like genuine there and then. So sometimes it leads to me going off on that, because I really struggle with like reading through something, like a publication or something, and then making a video on it. So I have to pretend that I haven't seen it, or I don't know. I can't do that. So I have to leave it unread until I actually record. So sometimes it leads to me going off on that. Yeah. Can't help it. But
yeah, I mean, some people say it's almost like what we're doing is almost like self-torture. Some people will say, well, if you don't like what's going on, just don't look at it. And go on your merry way and watch Love Island, But
yeah.
that will boil a piss as well, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. But it's like now the thing that I'm covering, well, keeping an eye on anyway, now is I was absolutely astonished to find it out, because I had no idea. In Scotland, there's a group called, I actually had the tab open earlier on. There's all in the back of George Floyd, obviously. Yourself, every orifice of the West, you've seen opportunists coming out of the woodwork to peddle for change and whatnot. But in Scotland, they developed this group called it's called Rear Rep, but it's the Race Equality and Anti-Racism Education Programme. And in the SNP's manifesto, the last election, 2021, they promised that they were going to implement an anti-racist education, because that's what these activists were calling for. George Floyd dies in America, so we need anti-racist education in Scotland somehow. But by and large, what's ended up happening, and so that's what I've been keeping an eye on, is they're now developing a program, which is critical race theory. It literally said it on their website for. I genuinely found it by pure accident. They released a rake of minutes for all the meetings that they've been having in secret, and they've got 4 different subgroups to their main group, which is the REREC thing. One of them is called curriculum reform, and it talks about that they're the curriculum reform team are wanting to develop a new curriculum for Scottish education, and it's predicated on a critical race theory framework. Words to that effect. In black and white on their website. They've taken it away now. They've edited all the pages, but I've been watching this transpire taking place and materializing for the last month or so. There's a program called the Building Racial Literacy Program, which is remember that article that was doing the rounds? People were talking about it, where essentially they were saying, Scottish people, Scotland's planning on banning the kilt. Do you remember that? It was maybe about a month ago.
Oh, no, I don't remember the one about banning the kilt. No, I don't.
It was like anti-racist resources, and the headline was a bit misleading, to be fair, because it was stuff from last year. But nonetheless, one of the things that the article contained was a woman was quoted as talking about white tears as a concept, and essentially saying if white kids cry when they hear about the anti-racist crap that they're being taught, you're not to comfort them, because at the end of the day, they're learning about stuff that affects BAMEs. So this woman who was quoted in that article, she's the one that's creating the Building Racial Literacy Programme. And she's working with the Scottish Government. She's part of the team. She's part of Education Scotland. So there's this programme that's being developed in secret So everybody thinks it's just this anti-racist education. It's just going to be about don't be racist to BAMEs, poor BAMEs, etc., etc. No, it's critical race theory. Critical race theory is coming to Scottish schools very, very soon. I'll be keeping an eye on it. Like I've shared it about the guy from UK Column, Alex, shared it to his credit for play. I'm like, so I'm hoping that in time it will get a bit more traction. But I've noticed when it comes to Telegram, these chats that I'm in, like with the odd time I've shared stuff, people are very receptive to LGBT propaganda. But see, when it comes to the anti-racist stuff, they don't want to know. Right. They don't want to get involved with that. You know, they want to be seen racist or bigots or whatever the case may be. But no, it's a very unnerving, development that's taking place. So it's kind of, there's been times it's totally burnt me out because I've done a lot of reading in terms of like all the stuff that this woman's peddled, what she says, what these resources say. And I've gone about trying to find every single one of these critical race theorists that are in Scotland. There's about at least 80 of them that are in schools as part of the programme. And I can't find very much on them because they're all anonymous. They're hidden behind a paywall, essentially. But I'm finding all these different groups now. There was one I covered last week, another anti-racist group who peddle the same stuff, work with little kids, promote. One of them's a teacher with early learning, which is nursery age in Scotland. She teaches the kids about intersectionality and social justice. And if you read the about on their website, they talk about where they take their sources from and that. They actually quote the Frankfurt School, they quote Marxism, etc. Like this is genuinely all happening under the nose of every parent in Scotland. So I can't just switch off from that. Knowing what I know, knowing that that's like coming into effect soon, I can't. It's just, I mean, I have to say I'm a bit obsessed now because I cannot stop covering it and can't stop keeping an eye on it, so to speak. I couldn't just turn everything off and go about my
right. Sure. I get that. Yeah.
But I had to kind of, it's my way of getting that out to anybody that listens to this. Like, I'll do anything I can to get as much attention thrown to that as possible, like, because it's worrying, like.
Yeah, if you want. I mean, we could. I can clip parts of this interview, especially this little bit. I can clip it and I can send it to you, and you can send that around. Things like that. I don't know if it will help. But.
Absolutely.
All right. Sure. It's just evil at this point. There's no other word for it. I know people say, "Oh, we're using this word too much," or "You're over exaggerating," but it's pure evil and it's child abuse. You're going to have kids in tears. And again, remember yourself growing up 20 odd years ago. You had nothing like that. You were just left to grow up as a young free child, without any of that to worry about, without any of that rammed down your throat. And, not to mention the whole LGBT stuff. I mean, that's another thing altogether. But that as well, on top of that. And it's just pure evil. And it's just alarming that people like this are being given a platform. They've obviously probably got quite decent paid jobs as well. These people, these 80 people that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Where do they come from? They get these positions. It just shows how rotten everything is. It goes. I mean, Kate was talking about this. She'd been doing her research for years, and she said and Jodie as well when they went to the BAMEd conference. It was only then when they realised, Jodie in particular, realised how deep seated it was and how infiltrated establishments have become.
Yeah. It's been a wake up call for me as well, because I didn't realise it was that bad in Scotland. As I say, I knew that they were planning on implementing an anti-racist education. That was all they said. It was very vague, but to find out that it's critical race theory, because there's that woman I was talking about, her group. She had an old website called the Anti-Racist Educator, and I remember years ago. Coming across that was one of the first websites that I came across in that sphere of anti-racism and whatnot, and it's absolutely grotesque. All the glossary is just full of absolute bile, anti-white bile. And I remember making a video on it at the time, and I wasn't very clued up or knowledgeable on anti-racism and critical race theory and stuff back then. So I just, by and large, my sort of conclusion to the video was that these people are trying their damnedest to worm their way into Scottish education. Mark my words, they'll get there eventually. Lo and behold, you fast forward a few years, and that same woman that created that website is now working with the Scottish government to implement critical race theory, and that's what irritates me by and large about Scotland. And I know Wales has kind of got the same problem. It was like a competition between Scotland and Wales, and most people, the ones that actually participate in voting in Wales, They just can't see past Labour. It's the same thing in Scotland with the SNP. All they see is Nicola Thinlips driving about in her Stop Brexit bus or her independence bus, and she promises them the world, she promises them independence, but then they vote for that, but they don't realise what's coming in the background. And critical race theory. I'd love to have this conversation with people that are avid independence supporters. Are you happy with critical race theory coming your way? Like, or is it just all about independence? I don't know, because it's got to be one of a few things. It's either they've read the manifesto, they've read all these materials, and they're absolutely fine with it, or it's they don't agree with any of that, but independence is more important, so they'll deal with all the rest of it after the fact. I'm sorry, I don't agree with either of that. Like, nobody should be giving the SNP any leeway. There should be nobody supporting them. I don't care about how passionate you are about independence. By and large, the stuff that they're implementing in the background is absolutely vile. Yeah. And I mean, there's just no place for it. And it's not just like the LGBT, which is absolutely bad. Some of the resources are absolutely vile. I made a video last week on that, actually. Sorry, I'm rambling a wee bit now.
Yeah, go for it.
There was resources that I covered last week where they were geared towards kids with like major learning difficulties. We're talking like Down syndromes, etc., like sex education resources. They were absolutely vile, like absolutely vile. And this is just like there on these websites openly for teachers to take it upon themselves to then in turn teach it to these kids. That's vile. One of the websites was I can't remember the exact wording, but it was essentially saying like, as long as you're being safe, have fun type of thing. And it was geared towards 14 and above, and it was talking about like sex toys and stuff on the website for 14 and above, for kids with Down syndrome and all that stuff. Nah, I'm sorry, nah. But then you've got global citizenship education, which that in and of itself, I mean, I won't go into that because I'll be here all day, but that's vile. That's normalising immigration. One of the resources that I went through, which was promoted by the Scottish Government, one of the top key points that they emphasise is that we have to move away from the normalisation of a quote white majority in favour of promoting diversity. So you read between the lines, and what that means is we need to stop normalising the idea that Scotland's white. This is what they do to kids. So you've got that, then you've got learning for sustainability, which ties into the Agenda 21 stuff I was talking about, which in and of itself is horrible, some of the stuff in there. They're essentially promoting like socialist talking points to little kids alongside absolutely malevolent, perverted in some instances, topics at very young ages. And it all gets a pass because, independence. Nah, I'm sorry, nah. I used to support independence. I will never support the SNP, but there was a referendum tomorrow. They can ram it. They can absolutely ram it.
Right. So, yeah. No. That's fine. No,
it gets me riled up, because it's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
And I just don't get it. I just don't get where it comes from. And I just don't know what's going on in Nicola Sturgeon's brain. I just don't get it. It's just mentally ill. It's the behaviour of you've got mentally ill people in charge of a country. I know, call me simplistic, but I just don't understand it. How you can just be so malevolent and so evil and behave in such a disgusting way towards children and have just utter contempt for these kids. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know who the hell she thinks she is for doing this. It's extremely destructive, and I was thinking about this the other day. I don't think I can't imagine any worse way Scotland can be governed these days. I can't imagine it being any worse, because if people are being round up and shot for certain for certain things, at least you would know what at least you would know that exactly what they wanted to do. At least things were going to be clear. But it's this idea that everything is done in a kind of positive way, or it's a good thing. It's being done to help people. People are being convinced that this is the way forward. It's progressive. It's 2022. It's what we do now, and it's just absolutely horrendous. It's just horrific. What there's the way they go about things. Okay. Oh dear. Maybe a crying game moment down below. Dear, oh dear. All right then. Okay. So before this this descends even further, I will bid thee good day, Resisting the Lies. Thank you very, very much for coming on. It's been an absolute blast. Really enjoyed it. And Almac is off to score some E's. Yes, okay. So you've been a bad influence. Been a bad influence on Al today. That's it. If it wasn't for Resisting the Lies, Al would be
teetotal.
He'll be there with his salad and his glass of water. But no, you had to do it, didn't you? And Bass says, seeing the disgusting pride parades with the small kids and all, yeah, all white, by the way. What do you do? What do you do? Do you let your piss get boiled? Do you ignore it? Do you rise above it? Do you do something? Right. Anyway, okay, right. So we've got some bagpipe techno now. This is it's acid folk, the Will Atkinson remix. The Will Atkinson Last King of Scotland remix of Acid Folk by Perplexer. And that is it for today. So thanks everybody for coming on. Thanks again, mate. Thanks to Resisting the Lies for joining me. And I will see everybody for the quiz tomorrow. And stay in touch, mate.
Yeah, without doubt. Thank you very much for having me on. Enjoyed myself. So,
excellent. Here it comes. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Later on.